For tonight's speaker, we welcome Daniel Moretti. Daniel is a program management director at the Pride Study PrideNet. Daniel has 20 years of experience working at the cross-section of community engagement, social justice, research, and film in diverse locations including San Jose, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, London, and Cebu, Philippines. He holds a BA in Visual and Media Arts from Emerson College and a Master of Science in Gender, Media, and Culture from the London School of Economics. Daniel is Program Management Director at the Pride Study PrideNet, based at Stanford University School of Medicine, where he oversees community engagement and research management for LGBTQIA plus health research. The Pride Study, based at Stanford University School of Medicine, is the first large-scale, long-term national health study focused on all adults who identify as LGBTQIA. In his personal time, he likes to watch and chat about the latest in LGBTQIA film and television, travel, and feed his passion for fashion. Daniel will discuss more about the Pride Study and the work that he does at Stanford. So without further ado, I welcome Daniel.
So feel free if there's questions as they come up. Happy to, of course, there'll be time for questions at the end, but I come from a Filipino and Italian family, so there's no such thing as interrupting because that's the way that we converse. All right, so I'm going to quickly talk about a little bit of background. I'm going to give an overview of the Pride Study, talk about our impact, and then share some ways that you could get involved if you're interested. So the background, this is probably areas that folks know a lot about or have experienced firsthand, but there's a lot of challenges and barriers when it comes to supporting the health of LGBTQI plus people. So we know that LGBTQI plus people are erased in data. That's even more present right now, where federal administration has removed sexual and gender identity from any type of national surveying. They did not move forward with it in the census, as well as removing any research that refers to these our communities. There are very few LGBTQI plus culturally competent providers, healthcare providers. So that means that the care we're receiving is not tailored or culturally responsive for us. And we also know that there's continuing to be a rise of anti-LGBTQI plus legislation. So all of that contributes to the reason why LGBTQI plus communities have health disparities. And this is what was on the minds of our founders, Drs. Juno Obid and Maliver and Dr. Mitch Lunn, as they were medical students at Stanford. And they really wanted to make a difference. And they wanted to look at how they can address some of these gaps in data and hopefully make some progress against the disparities as well. So they co-founded the Pride Study. That was in 2015, and it's currently based at Stanford University School of Medicine. And we are, as Isabel mentioned, the first large-scale, long-term national health study, and we're looking at all adults who identify as LGBTQI+. And when we talk about health, we're really looking at health at a holistic way. So physical health, mental health, and social health. Because there are gaps in data across all aspects of health, we want to make sure that we're addressing all areas. So the eligibility criteria for being in the Pride Study is you self-identify as part of the LGBTQI plus community. Right now, we're 18 and older, and you can be anywhere in the US and territories because it's an online survey that you're participating in. And currently, we're in English, so you have to be comfortable reading and understanding English. So it takes about 45 minutes to complete, but you can always pick it up. You don't have to do it in one seating. You could do it literally across the span of a year and do it in bite sizes as well. For us, the way that we do our work is just as important as the work that we do. So for our philosophy, really we start with looking at how we could give back to the LGBTQI plus community. And I think that's where there's a lot of values alignment with what Rainbow Rotary is doing, thinking about giving back to the community. So I'll talk a little bit more about ways that we do that. We want to make sure that we're low burden, easily accessible, that we're community engaged from the start, and we're guided by the principle that participants know best. So we make sure that participant input informs stages of the work that we do. Our values complement our philosophy, so we want to create relationships that are mutually beneficial for our participants and partners. We recognize that LGBTQI plus people also hold many other identities that also impact their health. And we want to create transparency, and we also want to create equity in the way that we do our work. So our approach is really, I think, what sets us apart from a lot of other research. We try to break the mold of what you might be familiar with when it comes to research, especially at academic institutions where it might be considered helicopter research. Researchers kind of jump into a community, extract data, and then never to be heard from again. So we want to make sure that we are doing things differently and having a community engaged approach. We're created for us and created by us. So as I mentioned before, that it's created by LGBTQI plus doctors and researchers, but also the members of the team are all parts of the LGBTQI plus community, as well as other communities that are underrepresented in research. And the way that we do our community engagement work is through our national network. It's called PrideNet. So PrideNet, it consists of community advisors who are like our participant advisory board. We have ambassadors who are spokespeople for the program, and we also work with more than 20 organizations across the country who are helping to spread the word around the opportunity to participate in the research, and we're also helping to share the great resources that they do. So we have partners that are large and national, like the Human Rights Campaign, as well as smaller, more grassroots organizations that are more regionally focused as well. We know that data privacy and security is something that is really, I think, paramount for LGBTQI plus people when it comes to any type of providing data, and especially health research. So just want to underscore that we have ironclad protections in place. So we have protections at the physical level, our platform level, and our database and participant level. So some of the ways that we do that is we make sure that the data that researchers are working with is de-identified. We also are working with the Google Cloud platform, which has very intense control access when it comes to the physical locations and anyone that's able to enter. And then we also make sure that the data is encrypted, so scrambled. So if there is a breach, there's even an extra layer of protection. And that's both at the platform and at the database level. So as data is being transferred, it's encrypted. And as data is being stored, it's encrypted as well. And to give a little bit of a snapshot of the data that I'm talking about, we are proud that we're now at nearly 31,000 participants across the country. And that spans across ages, sexual orientations, gender identity, and combined, our participants have provided nearly 84,000 survey data that we're now in our 10th year of data collection. And I would say a highlight of the program is that while our team at Stanford is conducting research with the data, we also collaborate with institutions across the country. So we work with large institutions like Columbia University, as well as smaller, more, I think, state-based institutions. And we work with community-based organizations as well to study the data. And also, we have published now 86 articles in peer-reviewed journals that share what are some of the findings around LGBTQ health. So this slide is just kind of a snapshot of the many, and it just scrapes the surface of the many topics that we have published research across social, physical, mental health. And this part, I found that participants are especially interested in hearing more about what is it that we're actually learning. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and give some specific findings that we've published. So in physical health, we found in one study that almost half of transgender and gender diverse participants struggled to find an affirming birth control provider. Also, we looked at a study around smoking cessation, or looking to quit smoking, and we found that messages that were tailored with LGBTQIA plus specific slogans were more effective at increasing young adult, lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer women smokers' intentions to quit smoking. And then a last example is we did some work looking at experiences of LGBTQIA plus people with disabilities, and compared to their non-disabled peers, they were more likely to delay seeking care, to not have health insurance, and to be unable to obtain care. Within mental health, just a few examples of some of the findings is that we found that stress related to being an LGBTQI plus person has a strong relationship with experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, or PTSD. We also found that conversion practices, which are commonly called conversion quote unquote therapy, that they were related to greater symptoms of depression, PTSD, and suicide. And lastly, we found that LGBTQI plus parents were more likely to report recent depression, anxiety, and PTSD symptoms compared to LGBTQI plus participants who were not parents. And then lastly, looking at social health, we found that some strengths within the community was that connecting with others, volunteering and activism, and exploring one's authentic self promotes strength and resilience in LGBTQI plus communities. So I think that speaks to the great work that Rainbow Rotary is doing, that you're promoting and contributing to strength and resilience in the community. And these are statistically relevant results. And this is data that could be cited to show the power of the work that Rainbow Rotary is doing. The other was that social norms and community acceptance can impact stress levels for gender minorities, so trans and non-binary people's level of stress as much as, if not more than, anti-transgender laws. So we looked at what was the stress that was caused from anti-transgender legislation, as well as the stress from community and social norms, and found that the community support and acceptance was as important, if not more. And then lastly, found that stress related to being LGBTQI plus and employment discrimination negatively impacted LGBTQ people's work experiences and income. And one thing I want to note is that I know that a lot of these findings are kind of looking at things that are harmful in our community, things that are trauma, but want to also just make sure to lift up what we were finding in terms of the strengths and the resiliencies within our communities and our goals. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we've made impact with these findings, is not just to state where there's disparities, but really to have that research then be used in policy and in practice for providers to make a change, so that that statistic does not stay the statistic for all of time. And some of the ways that we've done that is publishing in journals. So as I mentioned, we have 86 plus publications, but also we've now had nearly 2,000 citations of our work and other scholarly work. And also when it comes to public awareness, we've had a little more than 1,700 mentions in news outlets, popular media, and also when it comes to patient advocacy, so how it's impacting participants themselves, as we've had many participants let us know that they're bringing articles to their appointments with their providers so that it can also inform the care that they're getting. So I'll give a couple examples because I think the impact piece is really important, because I can't stress enough the impact that our participants are making by sharing their data and allowing this research to happen. And so one example was that our research that looked at subjective cognitive decline within older adults that were transgender and non-binary, that was associated with the discrimination that they are experiencing in medical settings. And that data was then cited in the Center for Disease Control, CDC's Healthy Brain Initiative. So their work looking at healthy brain activities for older adults. And this is more recent. I'm sure it's something that is on many of our minds, but as the US Supreme Court is hearing a case that would challenge bans on conversion therapy or conversion practices, the research that I mentioned earlier that found that showed with data that conversion practices were related to greater symptoms of depression, PTSD, and suicide. Last year, it was cited in multiple news outlets. A policy brief from the leading organization Movement Advancement Project cited that data, and it was also cited in an amicus brief that was filed for the Supreme Court, Chiles versus Salazar, that is working to combat the disinformation that conversion therapy is not harmful. So again, it's thanks to participants that share their experiences that we were able to do this research that is hopefully, going to make a change when it comes to when the Supreme Court makes a decision. Yeah, so they heard it. So I think the decision is supposed to come out in June, but they heard, I believe, in October, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, so this is something that is very current, unfortunately. So looking to challenge the bans that currently exist in many states on a national level, which would open the floodgate for, I think conversion therapy being considered legal across the US. So yeah, pretty grave stuff. But it's thanks to our participants that shared their lived experience that we're able to provide this data so that it can combat when administration says there's no evidence to show that conversion practices actually harm anybody, which we now know is not true with data. I've talked a lot about I've talked a lot about our successes, but as we know, there's a lot of changes within federal and also socially that are threatening this work to continue. So we know in all LGBTQ work, so we know that there's been a lot of moves within federal administration to erase LGBTQ people, both in data, but also when it comes to services and important community work. And this is having a negative impact when it comes to fear and health impacts for our community. And also the federal government has pretty much divested in LGBTQ health research. So they've cut 800 million in research that was guaranteed. And the Pride study ourselves, we got impacted with millions in grant terminations as well. But we persist. It's something that we know is even more important during these times, and we're likely the only ongoing LGBTQ health study at this time. And that just leads me into ways that, it does truly take a village. It takes a community to do this work. So if it's anything that, I think there's many different ways to get involved if there is of interest. So if you're not already a participant and it's something you're interested in, I have the QR code as well as the link. Our pridestudy.org website has a big join button, but if you go to register.pridestudy.org, you can learn more about how to be a participant. If you happen to be a researcher, we have a program, an ancillary study program, where you could collaborate with us on research. So there's more information that you can find on the bottom left-hand QR code. For folks that do have the means that want to financially contribute to help keep this work move forward, we also have a donate QR code and pridestudy.org donate page. And lastly, we invite everyone to read our research. If you're interested in knowing what is the latest findings on LGBTQ health, we create community-friendly summaries of all the research. Those are basically translating the academic jargon into language that many more people can understand, myself included, being not from a research background. And so all of that is available on our website for free as well. And again, pridestudy.org is where all of these different pages live. And then lastly, if folks want to stay connected with us, we're across social media platforms at the Pride Study. We have a newsletter, so the QR code on the right. And then our email address is pridenetconnect@stanford.edu. Yeah, I know that was a lot of talking on my end. I want to open it up if there's any questions, and happy to move back to previous slides if that's helpful.
Actually part of the VA study for LGBTQ plus veterans.
Yeah.
And they actually paid me for it. I got
Yeah.
$20 every time I submitted a survey, and all of a sudden it stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because now it makes sense why it stopped. Because I was thinking, I know why it stopped.
Yeah, a lot of anything that has to do like with either federal money or associated, and even it kind of trickled down to universities stopping with threats of funding for research that wasn't LGBTQI plus to be frozen, the funds to be frozen. So yeah, it's very I think it's something that is not to be underestimated, the years of consequence that this will have in this moment. So that's why we're so dedicated to making sure that this work continues. But I'm glad you also brought up the incentive piece, because that is an important part, right, when it comes to thinking about it. So given the size of our cohort, we do have many different opportunities with surveys and incentives. We do have some surveys where you complete it, you get, a $50, $75 gift card for every single survey. But for our annual questionnaire, we do raffle, or I'm not supposed to say that word. We do drawings. We do prize drawings. Yeah, strike from the record. No raffles. We do prize drawings, and we give out every year around $30,000 in gift cards to participants. So and it's actually true, and it's completely randomized. Like, I actually got one of the gift cards. So it's like, oh my gosh! I was like, it is randomized, because there's no way they would have given it to me if they knew. But yeah, so there's different ways that we incentivize in addition to returning the results back, and sometimes we do other like community engagement events and things like that as well.
So how long does it take for a study? So like, let's say someone walks in and says, I had a problem with my doctor here. I have an idea for a study. How long does it take to go from that to publication, like research, all of that?
Hello. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question. So it can really vary. So I would say the kind of traditional model is that it probably, from like identifying the topic to like in the process that we do, is all applications to work with the data are reviewed and have to be approved by our community advisory board. So community members are reviewing to make sure that, one, it's going to be non-stigmatizing research, and two, that there's a community engagement plan that meaningfully involves the community. Our course, our team reviews as well from the research side, but that process in itself, and then say we move to the survey, and then we collect the data, we analyze the data, write the manuscript, we submit to journals, wait to see if we hear back. That could be a year to 2 year process. But what we have done this year is we've created what we call R cubed, or rapid responsive research, and we've condensed that timeline down from a year to about a 3-month process. Has been the fastest that we've had. Not yet published, so it'll be a little bit longer, because sometimes the journals, no hate to the journals, but they, have their reviews, take some time. But because in 2025, we just saw the need for data to be coming out and research to be coming out immediately. We actually had an article published on what the impacts of anti-LGBTQ legislation is right now, pre and post election, and pre and post inauguration. And so that was actually it. That one's it should be released hopefully in the next month. So that we did the timeline a lot shorter. It is a more abbreviated manuscript, so it won't be, like the 20-page traditional kind of publication, but still it's very rigorous research and very robust data. So yeah, it can really span.
For any of the, so are any of the, I think you called them organizations, some of them are institutes, some of them are whatever, the 40 or whatever you said you work with, are any of those in red states and getting pressure not to participate?
Yeah, we have partners from all over, and we do have quite a few in the South or in conservative areas. And it's hard, I think, across the board. We're hearing from our organizations that they're getting hit hard financially when it comes to uh, sponsorships, foundation grants, and now, I think also a lot did receive, or there were many that did receive federal funding that also were impacted. I think not to speak for them, but what they've shared, because we do like quarterly calls and convenings with our partners, is that folks are invigorated to continue, but exhausted. So it's, this, how do I balance I need to keep going, but also recognize the burnout and the impact that it's having on the day to day, because I would say the majority of these people are also part of the communities that are being harmed. So they're also experiencing it in their personal life, the impacts in addition to professional. But we haven't lost any partners due to, financial pressures or, things like that. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Good question though.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your personal story around working there and what brings you joy.
Yeah, no, I love that question. I love the infusing joy, because we need that as much as we can. So, um, prior to this, so I would say if you looked at my resume, you'd probably be like, what on earth is he doing? Like, where's his direction? Like, working in film and then worked in government and now working in research. And I finally kind of put the pieces together. What my passion is story and storytelling, and the mode and the method of storytelling. It might be film, it might be through policy, or it might be through data, but storytelling for LGBTQI plus equity, for me, I've like, okay, that's what my passion is, that's what I'm here for. So that's how I kind of found this work at Stanford. And I think what brings me joy is the opportunity to hear from community members directly, and like being at meetings like this and being with the community. And I think that really fuels me and fills my cup up, because I think it just reminds me how real all this work is. And yes, it's important when I'm writing reports and behind the computer typing really fast, but I think for me what really drives it is the story, the human connection. So for me, that brings me a lot of joy. Yeah, thanks for that question. I love that.
So I was thinking, I take care of the website. So if you can give me something really short with
Yeah.
the scan QR codes, I can put something on up permanently on the website
Oh, thank you.
so
I
that
love
we
that.
can promote this. So I just need just a
Yeah,
little
like a
bit.
very short.
Yeah,
I
very
get you.
short with the
Yeah.
QR codes, and I can put
Yeah.
it on there.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
And a comment, because I do take the quizzes, tests, the surveys. I got the word. Yes. I take the surveys. They are not all 40 minutes. Some of them are shorter.
Good call.
But I'm sure you can talk more about that.
The annual questionnaire, that one is 45 minutes, and that's what we ask to do every year, because that's how we're kind of studying changes in health over time. But there are opportunities, and you get to choose which ones you want to complete or not. There's some that are as short as 5 minutes, and then some, there are 15 minutes. So you could pick and choose, and you could know what the topics are. So say if it interests you. So we just recently closed one that was looking at sexual and reproductive health. Then we had another one that was looking at kidney health, and it was a little bit more of like a quiz to see your knowledge about kidney health. And then we had one that's only being asked of people who also have cystic fibrosis. So you might be invited to them based off of a health condition or a demographic. So if we're looking at, say, for example, experiences of trans and non-binary people, then if you identify in that community, you get invited. But there's also many that are being invited to all of our participants. So yes, thank you for that good plug. That not all are 45 minutes, we promise.
Got to get people to participate. So they are not all 45 minutes. They are 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. I've taken many of them, and they're actually really well written and kind of just it's such a simple process to go from the beginning of one to the end of one that you're just like, oh, I'm done. Okay, we're good. Any other questions?
Could you tell me more about your mental health research?
Yeah. With our mental health research, so one of our co-directors is a clinical psychologist, and so that's really, I would say, like her area of expertise. Our other one of our other co-directors is a nephrologist, so more kind of internalist, the physical health, and then another one's an OBGYN, so looking at a lot of the family building, physical health. But within our mental health portfolio, um, I know that there's been a lot that's been done when it comes to impacts of what's considered or what's kind of called minority stress. So the stress of being an LGBTQI plus person. So the discrimination that you experience based off of being LGBTQ, or the fear of experiencing that discrimination, and what are those impacts on our mental health. There's also been a lot of research that's looked at the impacts of substance use within the community, and also how that relates to mental health. And we've also looked at what are the correlations between within our community experiences of intimate partner violence or domestic violence, and how that is related to increases in uses of substances or increases in drinking as well. So there's been, I would say there's quite a bit that we've looked at when it comes to mental health. I can also just quickly pull open, oh no, I'm gonna quickly show, okay, our research page. So on our research page, which is in the process of being redesigned so that it will be tagged by keywords, but kind of a analog trick until we get that done. So this is our research. So like, right, you can scroll for the rest of your life until you get down to the 83. But say if you're like, okay, I want to look at mental health, you could just do kind of a keyword search, and this will bring you to, so you could see there's like 108. So like we had studies that were looking at like what were mental health when it came to COVID for LGBTQ people. We were also looking at discrimination and how that impacts drinking and depression, specifically in lesbian, bisexual, and queer women. We've also looked at COVID-19 news. I'm going to skip through that one real quick. And we've also I want to mention that we've looked at what are different mental health impacts within specific communities. So we looked at what were experiences of social supports within trans and non-binary communities, and how that then related to mental health as well. So yeah, quite a bit that we've looked at within mental health, and it's definitely an important portfolio of research when it's as important as our physical health and our social health.
Any other questions?
So I think my favorite thing that you said this whole time, other than the joy part, was about how people are bringing some of your studies to doctor appointments. I mean, that's impressive because that's actually life-changing, you know, real clear evidence that it's life-changing. So kudos.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And it's something where, you know, we were very inspired by our participants sharing that by saying, like, you know, the self-determination to do that, right? That we have to, unfortunately, right, in our communities, often be the educator for our providers. And it's one thing that when we heard that we are hoping to, we've put some proposals in. Our hope is that we can actually start to generate reports for participants that will be in a format that they can bring to their providers, rather than them have to do that translating work and bring an article on, like, you know, a 20-page academic article or a community-friendly summary. So that's our hope that we're moving towards, is that we can start to generate reports based off of certain health conditions that combine key findings from research that we've published on that condition, so that it'll be a little bit more, I would say, digestible for different kinds of providers. So hope for the future. Hope for the future.
Any other questions? Anything online? Nothing online? Well, I think that's all the questions we have for now. I may reach out to you later because people may pop in with more questions later on. So hopefully that's okay. And here's a little something for you as a thank you for coming to our meeting tonight and giving such a wonderful presentation. Thank you.